Hi there, welcome to another episode of Gekes Cantina. My name is Gekes. Now, a couple of days ago I put a short video on my channel just as a bit of a teaser really. I went to see Halloween Kills and I just wanted to put a few initial feelings and thoughts on video on my channel, and I did promise a review, so that's what this is going to be, more of a breakdown of what I thought and what I thought of the film, and me kind of breaking it down and putting my views and my opinions on it really. So just to add a little bit of context, Halloween Kills, for anyone that doesn't know, is a sequel to the 2018 Halloween. Now, the 2018 Halloween is a direct sequel to the original 1978 Halloween movie by John Carpenter. It completely retcons all the sequels after Halloween 1978. So 2 all the way through to 6 don't exist as far as this is concerned, which is not a bad thing. I quite like Halloween 2, but they get more and more ridiculous as the films go on. There's Halloween H20, which was pretty good, and Halloween Resurrection, which will never be spoken to of on this channel ever again. So anyway, in the scheme of this storyline, Halloween Kills is a direct sequel to 2018's Halloween, starring Jamie Lee Curtis. I really did enjoy the Halloween from 2018. I thought it was a brilliant sequel to the original John Carpenter's Halloween, and it ties in beautifully. There's interconnecting storylines, there's returning characters, and it kind of progressed the story of Michael Myers and Laurie Strode a little bit, which was what a good sequel should do. So it kind of, everyone knew that they were going to end the Halloween Michael Myers story with a trilogy. So having Halloween Kills come along was hardly a surprise, especially after the success of Halloween 2018. So when I went into it, I was looking forward to it. I was waiting for it to be a really good film, and it certainly did not disappoint. So with the exception of 15 minutes at the beginning, the Halloween Kills pretty much picks up straight after the events of Halloween 2018, where after Michael Myers has kind of gone after Laurie Strode again in her house, and they've trapped him in there. Laurie, her daughter and granddaughter trapped him in the basement of Laurie Strode's house and set the house on fire, presuming that would actually kill him. Little that we know that little did they know even that of course that would not kill an unstoppable force like Michael Myers. As far as the story is concerned, the thing I liked about this was it didn't necessarily centre around Laurie Strode and her family. Now, some would say that's probably not, she's a mainstay of the series, even with the god-awful sequels that came after the original movie. And everyone wanted to see Laurie Strode come back in 2018's Halloween, which she did, and very successfully. But this story doesn't centre around her. She features in it, but she doesn't actually participate much in the story whatsoever. What it mainly centres around the town of Haddonfield and its residents, and how the Michael Myers killings has infected the town with a certain degree of, negativity. Evil is a good word. Evil is a word they use a lot in the movie, and it's centres mainly around a lynch mob. The town decides that they've had enough of Michael Myers and his wacky antics, and decides that evil must die tonight. That's a direct quote from the movie. And I will say there are survivors from the original Halloween movie in this movie as well. For anyone that likes those deep cut references, it's not a big deal if you're not overly familiar with the characters. They do very quick flashbacks in the movie, in Halloween Kills, just to kind of recap who these characters actually are. And I thought it was quite nice to kind of all tie it all into the original. There's a lot of tie-ins with the 1978 Halloween in Halloween Kills, probably more so than the Halloween of 2018. I hope you're keeping up with all these Halloween references. There's a lot of tie-ins with between Halloween Kills and Halloween 1978. So the town decides that they've had enough of Michael Myers, and they decide to go after him. So while the kind of town, some of the town residences and the lynch mobs are going after Michael Myers, they're doing their vengeance thing. Laurie Strode and her family are recovering after the events of the first movie. Again, she doesn't participate a huge amount in this movie, but as I mentioned, the Halloween movies are going to end with a trilogy. Now, this did feel very much like a second episode. Did feel very episodic. Obviously, this being the middle chapter of the finishing story. So, Laurie Strode and her family were recovering, and I'm assuming are gonna recover enough to finish the event, to finish the rest of the story in Halloween Ends, which comes out next year, which I, for one, cannot wait for. So, the thing I liked about this movie was it was very intense. There was a very strong sense of foreboding and tension through the entire movie. Very much like the original, you know, much like in the original, you don't see a huge amount of Michael Myers. It's that classic, very much like Jaws, is, you know, sometimes less is more. The less you see of the monster, the more effective it will be. And the same with Alien, in Ridley Scott's Alien. You know, the less you see of Michael Myers in the Halloween movies, the better. And you don't see him a huge amount. When he's doing his stabby, killy bits, you do see him, obviously. But there are chunks of the film when you don't see him, but you do feel his presence. You feel like him just being in the town is really having a nasty and negative effect on everyone and everything around him. But when you do see him, my God, he just cannot help. But towards the end of the film, I was actually rooting for him in a lot of ways, because his killing scenes were brutal, just savage. You see it in the trailer, but he massacres the team of firemen that are putting out the fire, where, you know, he was trapped in the basement, and he just butchers these guys. I mean, it is not for the weak of heart. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There is a huge, massive body count in this film, and nobody goes out nicely in this film. Michael Myers always finds very creative and very savage ways of killing. The thing I liked about this Michael Myers was he's unshackled. He's completely unhinged, and he's beast mode. This is Michael Myers beast mode. He is on a rampage. They do kind of understand what his motives are, but I'm not going to give you any spoilers. This is spoiler free, of course. But whether or not that's what his motive was is still up for debate. But anyone that gets in his way, he just mows them down. And he doesn't just mow them down. He mows them down and then turns around and mows them down again. The lynch mob that come after him, there's numerous dead bodies by the end of the film. And it's appropriate that it's called Halloween Kills, because, my God, Michael Myers does kill an awful lot in this film. I mean, some of the death scenes even made me wince a little bit. I was a bit like, ooh. And for something to do that to me in a movie, that's saying something, because I'm pretty hardcore when it comes to horror movies, and there's not much that can kind of get me reacting like that. But there was a few moments that were just so visceral and so animalistic. I mean, they even say in the movie that Michael Myers is an apex predator, and he certainly does live up to that moniker. Another excellent aspect to what I liked about Halloween Kills wasn't just the death scenes, because I do like a little bit of blood and guts. I shall admit, I am a horror fan. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I am quite partial to a bit of blood and guts. But the thing I liked about this Halloween Kills was it took everything that Halloween 1978 had and Halloween 2018 did, and it built on it. That is what a good sequel should do. It should take everything that came before it and build upon it. It progressed the mythology of Michael Myers, and it kind of spread the story to a wider community. It opened the story up, where to 2018 Halloween and the 1978 Halloween felt quite claustrophobic in a lot of ways, in that the stories were quite small. They were generally set in small locations. this Halloween Ends kind of opens it up to the town. And as I mentioned before, it's not just Laurie Strode and her family that are involved. There are others that meet their grisly demise. By building upon his mythology, what I mean by that is in the 2018 Halloween, they mentioned about him being apprehended after the events of the 1978 Halloween. And obviously that it happened off screen. It happened years before. You didn't actually see it, but in Halloween Ends, this isn't a spoiler. In Halloween Ends, at the beginning of the film, you do see how Michael Myers is apprehended by the police, and the effect it has on one particular character, which shall remain nameless at this time. You have to go and watch the movie to find out who that is. As you'd expect from a film from 2021, it's very, very well made. It's very well polished. It didn't feel... It looks very, very good. There's good colouring, a good colour palette. It didn't feel muted or anything like that. There was a lot of colour on the screen at the same time. Even in the darker sequences, you can still see, pictures on the walls. They did very good in the nighttime scenes. They made good use of lamplight, torchlight, street lamplight and all that other stuff. And then you got the stark contrast of the hospital setting, which it features a lot in the movie as well. So there's a lot to see. It's not just, what they tend to do with movies is make the color palette very muted and very somber, where which is to reflect the atmosphere of the film. But this isn't the case. This is very well polished, it's very well put together, and it's very, very nice to look at, actually, even with the blood and guts. Now, one thing I was waiting for, which is a staple for all Halloween movies, is the score. John Carpenter's score from the original Halloween film, but they've obviously jazzed it up a little bit. But I was waiting for that music to kick in, and after the intro of Halloween Ends, of course, the music kicks in. And another thing I liked about this movie was the way it ties in with Halloween 2018 and Halloween 1978 was the title sequences. They matched, they were very consistent. And that's what I loved about this movie was that, and the one before it, was there's a lot of continuity with the art direction, with the music, with the actors, with everything. There's a lot of continuity. And the title sequence when the title comes up, Halloween Kills, and with the pumpkins and with the black background and with the score going, and that it was certainly setting up a really, really good film. The performances are really good as well. I mean, you can't fault. You got Jamie Lee Curtis, you got Will Patton, and all the other supporting characters as well. There wasn't one actor that stood out for being particularly bad. They were very solid, very, very solid, very intense. There's a very, very intense acting in this film, and I think that's noteworthy because in a horror franchise, characters can get a little bit two-dimensional. But I didn't once think that. I mean, there's some characters that only had a few minutes of screen time, but it didn't feel. They made the characters quite realistic. It was played very, very straight. It wasn't tongue-in-cheek. It wasn't meta. It wasn't anything like that. It was played very, very straight. But I never felt like characters didn't have enough screen time before they were killed. There was one particular scene where this older couple gets really, really badly killed, of course. And it was literally only about 5 to 8 minute scene. You see them at the beginning of the scene, and by the end of that part of the movie, they were dead. But I didn't think once that they were just put in as cannon fodder. I actually felt, very, very sorry for them, and that says a lot considering they only had a few minutes screen time. But that's a testament to how good performances there were in the movie, and that's across the board as well. There wasn't one actor that I thought was a bit weak. It was all very, very solid work. So Halloween Ends. No, Halloween Kills, not Halloween Ends. That's the next one. Halloween Ends, incidentally, comes out in 2022. The Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends were kind of filmed back to back. So, in kind of Lord of the Rings, Matrix style, which is not a bad thing, because again, that ties in beautifully with the continuity. That means, you know, it's not going to be a couple of years gap. Actors aren't going to go off and get a little bit older. They're not going to get fatter. They're not going to be doing anything like that. They're going to be straight into the next movie. Again, it helps with that continuity, which I think a lot of people want with these films, because there's nothing worse than, you know, you have a few years between each gap between each sequel, and you know they recast, or something happens to that actor and they can't get that actor back, and you know people go off and live their lives and do different things, but you know having that continuity into the Halloween ends, I think, will be certainly beneficial for the franchise. So Halloween Kills, it certainly lives up to the name, that is for sure. As you could probably tell, I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I would probably say it's one of the best horror films, slasher films, or whatever you want to call them, that I've seen in quite some time. I was completely engrossed in it. It made me react, sometimes audibly, which is saying a lot, because you know, I tend to, if it's funny, I laugh. You know, if it's scary, I tend to go quiet. But there was moments that made me go, ooh, ee, ah. Exactly like that, I might add. The music was good. It was very nice to look at. The acting was good. You know, I find it very hard to find some faults in it, and I may be biased because I like Halloween movies and I like a good blood and guts routine. But this wasn't just like any other blood and guts routine. This wasn't like any other slasher film I've seen. There was a lot of intent behind it. There was a lot of subtext and a surprising amount of depth to it that I wasn't prepared for, but was pleasantly surprised that it was there. And that so it was, you know, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was completely engrossed. The time flew by when I was watching it. It felt the time of the movie went by so quick. There was a couple of times when I thought the movie was going to end on a really awful cliffhanger, but it didn't. It carried on, and right to the end, right to the climax of the film. I'm not going to give you any spoilers of how the movie ends, because you know that would just be cruel. And I will say it did end on quite a cliffhanger. And but as I mentioned before, this is the middle one of a trilogy, so of course they've got to set the stakes for Halloween Ends next year. And I, for one, I cannot wait to see Halloween Ends. It'll be bittersweet, because it'll be the end of Michael Myers. Whether it's going to be the end of Michael Myers, I don't know. They might resurrect him again. But for that point in time, it'll be the end of Michael Myers. And I, for one, am very curious as to how it's going to progress and how they're actually going to end it. There were slight implications that Michael Myers was something other than human, that he may be supernatural. Whether or not that is true or not, I don't think that has been confirmed by the director. In fact, I think it may have actually been denied, but it's a nice thought, because it kind of ties a little bit of an Easter egg into the original trilogy, the original sequels to the original movie, which, you know, got a little bit. Anyway, we shan't talk about those. So, with enough of my ramblings now, it's time to give it a score. Now again, you know, I tend to do these reviews, but I tend to score quite high, mainly because I tend to review the films that I like. Now this film is a brilliant sequel, and it builds upon what came before it. It looked good, it sounded good, it was good performances. Again, I can't really find too much weakness in the film. All I can say was, you know, Michael Myers there was a portion of the movie where you didn't see Michael Myers a lot. I suppose you could say that as a negative, but again, you know, it kind of ties into what's, you know, less is more, and that, you know, the acting was good, and the death scenes were just brutal and amazing. You know, again, I can't really fault it much, to be honest. I enjoyed it thoroughly enjoyed it. It put a big old smile on my face when I left, because it certainly met and exceeded my expectations. I say that a lot, but it certainly did. There are movies that I've watched, you know, there's a movie I watched fairly recently which didn't, which maybe I'll talk about some other time. But yes, so as far as a score is concerned, I am going to have to give this 9 out of 10. I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because I don't want to give it a 10 out of 10 because there's always room for improvement. I think I'll be hard pressed to find a movie that is 10 out of 10. I'm sure they are out there, and I'm sure I could probably review them, but what's the point, because I've already given you my score for it. So yeah, 9 out of 10 is a good score for this movie. I would recommend anyone going to watch it, particularly if you're a Halloween fan. If you're not a Halloween fan, if you like horror movies, then hell yeah, go and watch it. But I would recommend watching Halloween 1978 and Halloween 2018 first, because if not, you might be a little bit lost. Anyway, that's enough of my ramblings about Michael Myers and Halloween and stuff like that. I'm glad I got time to put this review onto video. I've been thinking about it the last few days, been processing everything, and I think I've got everything off my chest that I wanted to put into the video. So yeah, I'd recommend going to watch it to anyone who likes these kind of films. So I shall say good day and goodbye for today. Maybe I'll do another review, maybe I won't just yet, I don't know yet, I haven't decided, but I'm sure very, very soon I'll come up with another idea for a review or a video, okay? But until that day comes, my name is Gekes, and thank you for watching my video. Please like, share and subscribe.